The first thing you know that I think is probably most important to you guys, or one of the most important things to you guys, is the Municipal Sustainability Strategy. We have a lot of different titles for a lot of different things that we're working on, but the Municipal Sustainability Strategy is the new process that's in place to take over the dissolution study process that many of us are very familiar with. We've had many municipalities small communities discover that they're having trouble succeeding or having trouble just being sustainable going forward. And we had a dissolution process before, which frankly meant that municipalities we would do an investigation for them on their viability and their sustainability. And it would all lead to the culmination of a vote. And through the entire process, before the study was presented, the community would tear itself apart, fighting about whether or not they're viable or not. Should we stay a municipality or should we dissolve? And there were some of those that the tearing apart was so strong, so profound, and so powerful that we saw municipalities that would take a generation to heal from the dissolution process. And then at the end, they'd have a vote to dissolve, and you guys would inherit them with absolutely no input onto whether or not they were viable or what you were going to do going forward. Or they would vote not to dissolve, and we're right back to square one, with now a municipality that's completely divided. So the Municipal Sustainability Strategy is intended to bring partners together, including yourselves, to talk about how to ensure long-term viability for our municipality so that we make an appropriate decision, not on whether or not you're going to be a legal entity, but how your community is going to be successful regardless of whether you keep that legal standing or not. I think that's a very important process. And I know the first one that we officially undertook was for Cremona. And I want to thank Al for all his hard work volunteering on behalf of AAMDC to work us through what that process is going to look like and how we can apply it to the next jurisdictions that question their own viability and sustainability. The second project we've undertaken, which I think is an incredibly large project, is the Municipal Government Act. We're going to rewrite it. It is the largest piece of legislation in the provincial government. I don't know how many of you have read it. It's great bedtime reading. It's 468 pages of wherefores and what-fors and legalese, and I've read it 2.5 times. I'm having trouble getting through the third time. I keep falling asleep. It's not really exciting, but you know what? The role that it will play in making sure that we ensure long-term prosperity going forward is exciting. And that's what makes it not just the largest document in the provincial legislature, but one of the most important and one of the most significant, because it determines your role. It explains how you're going to operate. And quite frankly, it's all about how you're going to operate in conjunction with the province, because I'll tell you, there is no clear lines on exactly what your responsibilities are and what our responsibilities are, what your role is going to be in building stronger communities and what our role is going to be in building stronger communities. Those lines blur constantly. I've said to many of my colleagues, yeah, you guys collect taxes and you build infrastructure, we do the same. We have a Minister of Health who builds hospitals and pays doctors, but you guys recruit doctors. We have a Minister of Education that builds schools and manages the curriculum, but you guys have school properties that you're responsible for. There is not one single thing that I have yet to find someone named that does not have a joint role between municipalities and the province. And that's why this municipal government review, this act that we're rewriting, which quite frankly hasn't been reviewed in 17 years, is critical going forward. But I want to tell you something that I think is going to be our biggest challenge going forward when we rewrite this Municipal Government Act. Everywhere I go, and it doesn't matter if it's AAMDC or AUMA, I have every single municipality say, we're strong, we're autonomous, you should let us manage our affairs as best as possible. But I'll bet you I get 10 phone calls a day from municipalities that say, would you fix this for me? And that's going to be the biggest challenge, because it's not fair, it's not right, and it's impossible to ask for more responsibility and more autonomy, but at the same time ask the province to step in and fix things when it's a tough decision to make. And that's not just AAMDC, that's AUMA. And we're going to have to make sure that the Municipal Government Act gives you the autonomy you need and ensures that you have the ability to make decisions that you need to make. We also have the Local Authority Election Review. The legislation should be introduced after, this is a constituency week break this week, but the legislation should be introduced as soon as we get back on Monday or Tuesday. It's a joint act. The changes we're making in the Local Authority Election Act will be combined with the changes we're making in the Provincial Elections Act into one act, just an amending act. We're not combining the acts. I don't want anyone to walk out of here and tell the press, oh, what are you doing? You've combined the acts. They're still standalone acts. We're just combining the amendments into one act for debate, and the changes will be made. And as long as it passes, the third Monday of October in 2013, you will be running for a 4-year term, not a 3-year term. I can still change it if you're not very excited about that. No. And a few of the other changes that we're going to be making, I want you to know that when we did our consultation on the Local Authority Election Act, we did a public consultation, and we submitted or solicited recommendations from councils and independent councillors too, to give us feedback on what things needed to be changed. There's some minor changes, and all we're bringing forward are changes that were completely or almost universally adopted by both the public and by elected officials. So there's nothing very controversial in it. Probably the most controversial would be some of the feedback I get on moving councils to 4-year terms. It's funny, I actually have had a few councillors have come up to me and said, I don't know if you should go to 4-year terms because I don't know if I want to run again. I don't know if I want to run for a 4-year term instead of a 3-year term. Well, if you're not committed to a 4-year term, I don't know how committed you are to a 3-year term. You're in or you're out. I also want to thank all of you, the board, especially for AAMDC, who have participated in the off-site symposium on, or the symposium on off-site levies. It's very important work, and I just want to thank you. We've had our first symposium, and we're going to be moving to have our second, because frankly, ladies and gentlemen, building stronger communities does not just take a commitment and a responsibility from the province of Alberta and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and you as elected councillors. It also takes a commitment from the developers who are helping to build new subdivisions or developments within our municipalities. And I have seen firsthand that they're just as committed to building better communities as we are, because every single one of those people live in our communities as well. And it's nice to see municipal, provincial, and private business come together to work out solutions on building better communities. And we will get to a solution so that we can avoid keeping this out of the courts, because quite frankly, if we spend all of our time in the courts, the only people that will win will be the lawyers who get paid. No offense to any lawyers, but that's what's going to happen. We also have the 911 initiative. Yeah, see, I told you, there is a lot of stuff going on in municipal affairs. We also have the 911 initiative. You may recall a year ago, I told you, I don't know if you remember the story, but 8 years ago or 9 years ago, I was so concerned about 911 services in my own municipalities that I tried to find out how we could make sure that we collected a 911 fee on cell phones just like we do on landlines, and make sure it gets to our 911 call centers, who provide such a valuable service to all of our municipalities. And I kept getting told, oh, it's the CRTC, go to the federal government. So I'd go to the federal government. They'd say, no, it's the provincial responsibility. And back and forth I would go, and I couldn't figure out where it laid. And then about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I finally found out that it was the province's responsibility, and that the province had set up a committee to come to resolution with the 911 cell phone service issue. And so then I knew it was in the provincial government, there was a committee. And then about a week before I became Minister of Municipal Affairs, I found out it was the Minister of Municipal Affairs who was responsible for getting it done. So I made the commitment to you that I would get it done in a year, because I've been working on this 8 years. You've been dealing with it that long or longer. And I'm proud to say that within the next few weeks, you will hear me make an announcement about what the resolution to that is. It will still take legislation in the spring, a full bill, but we have got all the players and partners on side now, and we're working. Everybody's very excited about the resolution we're going to have. So that's coming. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I feel really privileged to be your Minister of Municipal Affairs. But I also feel an incredible sense of responsibility, especially at this stage in Alberta's evolution. We are growing on the front stage globally and drawing more and more attention. And sometimes we need to take stock of the situation we're in or the place we're at. It's very important to do to make sure that we focus consistently on what our most important job is at hand. And in case you haven't heard me say it before, our most important job at hand is to build strong communities. As much attention as Alberta gets, I was talking to a doctor. He actually, a PhD doctor, does research in nanotechnology. And we had attracted him to Alberta. And I was asking, you know, so we have the most competitive wages and salaries and the lowest taxes and the strongest economy, and it's wonderful that you're here. And he said, well, that's not why I moved here. He said, the difference between my salary and what was offered from all sorts of places all over the world was about $20,000, which if you knew what he made, that wasn't much. And he said, but it wasn't the salary that made any bit of difference. He said it was the quality of life that I chose. And when I looked all around the world at the opportunities that were there for our research and development, I also looked at what sort of opportunities there were for my family, for my kids to go to university, for the quality of life that we would have as a community that my family wants to live in. Because quite frankly, I don't care what you guys pay me. If my family doesn't want to live there, I'm going to have a miserable existence. And he chose Edmonton. That was pretty outstanding. And to me, that just emphasizes how important our job is to build better communities. We have some of the best in the world, but we can never lose sight, because if we start to think we're miles ahead of everybody else, we'll get past, and we'll have a lot of catching up to do. But that means that it's not just up to the Minister of Municipal Affairs or the Minister of Health or the Premier of this province to build strong communities. The responsibility doesn't just lie with me or them. It lies with every single person in this room and every single person in the community. If you've ever heard me speak before, you've heard me say that I can't make sure every community is strong and prosperous and viable and sustainable over the long term. Only the people who live in that community can decide they want their community to be strong and prosperous and sustainable and viable over the long term, which means the responsibility is borne by every single one of us to build a strong community. That's why our government is undertaking the Municipal Sustainability Strategy, the Municipal Government Act Review, and countless other initiatives, and we're going to count on you to be our partners to make sure that we get those done properly. Now, listen very closely. I was at AUMA. It was my first opportunity to address AUMA because they only have their convention once a year, and I was appointed just a matter of 2 weeks after their previous convention. So it was the first time I got to be there to speak and listen. And I did a lot of listening. Just like I do with you guys, I'll be here from first thing in the morning until late at night, having meetings and around in the hallways. You can talk to me. I did the same thing at AUMA. And the biggest issue I had raised with me is the issue around, some people call it the linear assessment, some people will call it revenue distribution, some people will call it revenue inequity, but that was the biggest issue. And I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told them. If you're focused on protecting your legally described municipal boundary, then don't call me. Because I don't care about legally defined boundaries that were written up 100 years ago. They're just a matter of political and legal description. Our focus is on building strong communities, not protecting municipal boundaries. And I've told them the same thing. Thank you. A couple people are happy. I've told them the same thing. There is not a single solution that the province of Alberta will be able to come up with that will make everybody happy if we start to discuss what we're going to do with revenue sharing or cost sharing, because if we come up with a provincial solution, the only thing I can guarantee you is that not a single person in this province will be happy with it. And it won't address local solutions. It won't address the local challenges. Solutions have to come, yes, but they have to be done at the local level, period. You have to work together with your other municipalities to come up with a solution. If you ever read the book that I wrote, 13 Ways to Kill Your Community, you know that the only thing that harms communities, or the thing that harms them most, is attitude. And if you hold on to grudges or refuse to work with a municipality because of something that mayor's grandpa did to your great-grandpa back in 1908, you're going to be the cause of the demise of multiple communities, and it will only be your responsibility. So I need you to work with your local municipalities to come up with local solutions. Or we'll continue to get more and more pressure to come up with a provincial solution that will make no one happy and won't address local needs. Now, I am so proud of so many of you because there are countless municipalities that are finding local solutions. I could stand here and deliver you a 20-minute speech alone on what municipalities have done to come together to find local solutions. But I just picked out a couple to mention. Cost sharing. The County of Lethbridge, the City of Lethbridge, and the Town of Coaldale jointly participated in the development of a regional approach to supply potable water, the most precious resource we have next to the people of this province. This agreement has facilitated city-treated water to residents and industries in Coaldale and the county. This regional system assures the quality and quantity of water required by the region's residents now and well into the future. Woodlands County and the Town of Whitecourt developed and authorized a tax revenue sharing agreement. This deal states that the taxes on new projects over $50 million in value will be shared between the two communities. These agreements build solid working relationships among neighbors. And there are countless other examples. It doesn't matter to me whether you use cost sharing or revenue sharing as long as you work together to come up with a solution. Because look, ultimately, there is no us versus them. There is no county versus town. There is no east versus west or north versus south. There's only us. There's only Albertans. And it doesn't matter, you ask a single solitary Albertan and they don't care who delivers the service or how it gets delivered. They just want us to sit down in the same room, provincially, municipally, urban and rural, and come up with how we're going to deliver those services in the most cost-effective manner and good use of taxpayer dollars. That's all they care about, and it's our job to serve them in that capacity. Now, I would like to stop for a second. I get lots of credit as a Minister of Municipal Affairs for some of the things that we're doing. I also get the blame, but I'm always surprised at how much credit I get because, quite frankly, we have a lot of fantastic civil servants who dedicate countless hours to work to deliver good programs and to help make sure that we're doing a good job. I get the credit, but they do a lot of the work. You guys are in the same boat. You have administrative personnel who you know, you guys get the credit, but they do the work behind the scenes. It's critically important that we make sure we have succession planning done and make sure that we have the trained capacity for those folks who provide us so much support and make sure that we make the right decisions. So we have the Municipal Internship Program, which helps to do that, which is now in its 11th year and continues to be a highly successful partnership between Alberta's municipalities and this ministry. The program helps municipalities recruit and train capable, well-rounded leaders who can progress into senior municipal positions to make sure that we have the capacity we need to build strong communities. In return, municipalities make a commitment of time and the resources necessary to host and train those interns. This dynamic program helps municipalities address succession planning. We have quite a few of those municipal interns with us now. Administrative interns, I'm going to ask you to hold your applause. I want to introduce them and I want them to stand up when I call their name so that you can recognize them. First, we have administrative interns, Rory Tirant. We have Kinney Sandhar. Where are you guys at? Are you guys all sitting together in the same spot? All right, they're in the corners right now. Trevor Dooley, Matthew Atkinson, Sarah Clack, Alexis Boozy, Lorraine Ellis, Jenna Dutton, Clinton Bishop, Anna Robertson, and Kelly Cust. And also we have some planning interns with us, Neil Chatta, Jeff Robson, Stephanie Che, and Aminu Bello. Ladies and gentlemen, there are future administrators. Let's thank them. Now, you're going to see me around here all week. I'm going to be in the hallways or I'm going to be in meetings that you guys have set up. You may get sick of me. I also know that almost all, I think all of my colleagues, Jackie Fensky already texted me first thing this morning and said she was here bright and early, but most all of my colleagues are going to be here throughout the week too. So please take advantage of cornering them and talking to them about not just the challenges that you have, but some of the ideas and solutions you have too. Make sure that they're very well educated so that when I'm in caucus and we're discussing issues, they say, I know exactly what you're talking about. One last thing. I just want to say one more time, thank you, all of you, for all the working relationship that we have with my colleagues and myself. You never hesitate to give me a call to talk to me about some good things that are going on or some of the challenges that you face. I want to thank your board, your executive, because they provide some incredible leadership. Gerald has already helped us with so many things going forward, initiatives under the MGA. I want to thank Carolyn and Bob. You have some tremendous leadership at AAMDC, and they deserve a thank you again, because we couldn't do it without them or you. And remember the 4 principles we operate everything on in municipal affairs. 4 principles. There is only one taxpayer in this province. We have to make sure that we are competitive, the most competitive place in the nation, which isn't just a provincial responsibility, it's a municipal responsibility as well. There is no us versus them, there is only us. We're all Albertans working together for the same common purpose, success for the next generation. And finally, everything that we do has to be governed on making sure we deliver services to the one client we all have, Albertans, in the most cost-effective and efficient manner possible. As long as we all keep focused on that, we're going to do some amazing things. Thank you for having me here, and I'll see you this week.